So you've been thinking about becoming an owner-operator, and you're wondering where you should start at. You know, if you look at some of the information that's available out there, you watch some other videos, you talk to some other folks, you maybe read some books, a lot of people tell you to choose your business entity. You know, decide whether you want to be an LLC or you want to be an S Corp. Get that set up, and then go and get your authority and walk you through the process of doing that, or hiring a service to do it. And then, you know, part of that's getting your insurance and filing all the multitude of things that have to be filed to get up and operating. Well, those are all things that are going to need to be addressed and looked into in the process. But what I would suggest that you do well before you start doing any of that stuff, is to do a self-assessment and find out if you're ready to become an owner-operator or not. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's a lot that's going to go into whether you're successful or whether you fail. And sadly, many people that try to start a trucking business are not going to survive very long. And it's not because it can't be done. It's been done over and over successfully by a lot of people over a lot of years. Some ways work, some ways don't. But one of the common denominators for people that get into trucking that you know, try to become an owner operator is not taking the time to learn how to run a business, how to run a trucking business. And understand this too. Even if you've been a driver for a while, being a successful truck driver for a company is not the same skill set, not by a country mile, as what's required to own your own trucking business. And even if you're going to lease onto a carrier, there's a lot of things that you need to understand. And there's a lot of limitations and restrictions that are going to be placed upon you. Some carriers you have a fighting chance at. Other carriers are going to basically make it almost impossible for you to be successful. And if you have no clue what you're doing, you won't know how to tell a good deal from a bad deal until you're already in it and losing your shirt. So, you know, a couple of things. One, if you're brand new to trucking, what I suggest that you at least consider doing, I'm not telling you to do this, you have to make up your own mind and do whatever works for you. But what I strongly suggest that you consider doing is become a company driver first, and then do that for at least 9 months to a year, minimal, before you even think about starting your own business. Now, I know some people, there's a handful of people that have had previous business experience that successfully operated other types of business and have come into trucking with no prior trucking experience and made it work. But for every one of those, there's 100 or 1,000 that have fallen flat on their butt when they try to get into trucking with zero experience and start out right off the bat as an owner operator. Now, listen carefully what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are people that make it work, but that's a hard way to go about it, especially if you have zero knowledge of trucking. So, in the big scheme of things, a few months driving for a company is nothing. I mean, think about that compared to a college degree. You know, you're looking at 4 years of education in a college to get a degree and spend tens of thousands of dollars for something that may or may not produce a profit for you. Trucking will absolutely produce a profit for you if you take the time to learn what you're doing. So make sure you have a basic, solid foundation before you just jump into it. So again, if you're coming into it with zero experience, I recommend that you start with a safety-oriented and a well-organized motor carrier, and learn how to drive, learn the basic fundamentals of being a truck driver, learn that stuff first, and then while you're you know, getting your skills down, start studying and preparing the other things that you're going to need to be able to do and understand to build your own trucking business successfully, if that's your ultimate goal and what you want to do. Just a couple of quick examples that people screw up on when they get ready to start a business, and that is they have zero understanding of regulations. Trucking is a highly regulated industry, and DOT doesn't care whether you understand regulations or not. They're going to hold you accountable, and some of the fines are in the tens of thousands of dollars. For example, if you screw up and don't put yourself in a drug testing consortium, or consortium as some people call it. Fines are huge for that. You have to set up your drug testing program, and if you're a single, meaning just you solo as an owner operator, one truck, you can't be in a random pool of ones, which means you have to join a drug testing pool. And usually you pay a fee to do that, and it has to be a DOT compliant program. And there's all kinds of behind the scenes stuff that you need to know to make sure that's set up properly. Another thing is you have to have a qualification file. Qualification file has all sorts of specific records that have to be in that. You also are going to have to understand vehicle maintenance and repairs, and you need to set up an emergency reserve fund and have money set up for that. That alone sinks of a lot of would-be owner-operators as well, because they have little to nothing set aside, and when something goes wrong, you're going to have a problem. So those are just some of the things to consider, and we've got courses on Udemy that cover most of that stuff in more detail. And in upcoming videos, we're going to continue to get further into it and then break more and more information down for you if you're interested in it. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you again soon in the next video.